In a rapidly evolving political landscape, the role of America's top diplomat has become a focal point of contention, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio facing unexpected challenges to his leadership. Once considered a secure appointment, Rubio's position is now under scrutiny as internal rivalries and shifting dynamics within the government come to the forefront. As he prepares for his first official visit to the Caribbean next week, the challenges ahead could shape not only his tenure but also the broader direction of U.S. foreign policy. Rubio's appointment was initially met with optimism, but recent reports indicate that he is grappling with frustrations regarding the influence of other officials, particularly the recently appointed National Security Advisor, who has been seen as a potential rival. In a statement addressing these concerns, Rubio stated, "It's not what I expected," referring to the level of competition for control over diplomatic initiatives. His comments suggest a growing tension within the administration that could complicate the execution of foreign policy. Adding to this complexity, a recent call between Rubio and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy highlighted the delicate balance of power among U.S. officials. The discussion, characterized as constructive, nonetheless underscores the challenges Rubio faces in ensuring that U.S. support for Ukraine remains strong amidst competing voices within the administration. "We must stand united in our support for democratic nations facing aggression," Rubio emphasized, indicating his commitment to a robust foreign policy stance. Moreover, the media landscape has not been kind to Rubio, with outlets like CNN suggesting that his role is under threat from both external and internal sources. In response to these narratives, Rubio has publicly dismissed claims of being frustrated with his colleagues, asserting that he is focused on advancing the administration's goals. "The team is working well together towards our common objectives," he stated, attempting to quell speculation about discord. As Rubio embarks on his Caribbean visit, analysts are keenly observing the implications of his leadership style and the ongoing rivalries within the administration. His ability to navigate these internal divisions while maintaining a clear and decisive foreign policy will be crucial. The Caribbean trip is expected to address key issues such as economic cooperation and regional security, which could set the tone for future diplomatic engagements. Looking ahead, the coming months will be critical for Rubio as he seeks to solidify his position and manage the expectations of both his colleagues and international partners. With geopolitical tensions rising globally, the effectiveness of his leadership will not only influence U.S. relations with allies but also shape the narrative surrounding American diplomacy. As the political chess game continues, all eyes will be on Rubio's next moves in this high-stakes arena. In a significant reshaping of educational governance, President Donald Trump announced today that key programs from the Department of Education will be reassigned to other federal agencies. During remarks made from the Oval Office, Trump stated that the Small Business Administration (SBA) will take over the management of student loans, while the Department of Health and Human Services (HHS) will assume responsibility for services related to students with disabilities. This move aligns with Trump's long-standing goal of dismantling the Education Department, a pledge that has been echoed by many in the Republican Party. Trump asserted that the SBA's involvement would lead to much better servicing of student loans compared to the existing system. "I think that will work out very well," he commented, suggesting that the change is aimed at improving efficiency and oversight in federal student loan management. However, it is important to note that completely abolishing the Department of Education would require congressional approval, a challenge that could complicate the administration's plans. The announcement comes amid a backdrop of escalating tensions regarding educational policy and funding, as well as ongoing scrutiny of the administration's broader strategies. In a related development, the General Services Administration (GSA) revealed it is launching a new artificial intelligence tool designed to enhance efficiency within government operations. This tool, developed internally over the past 18 months, reflects a growing concern about the security of commercially available AI solutions in federal contexts. Meanwhile, the political landscape remains charged. Elon Musk, a prominent figure and advisor to the Trump administration, visited the Pentagon for a briefing today. Although Trump denied reports that the meeting included discussions on military strategies pertaining to China, the visit has sparked questions from lawmakers including Senators Elizabeth Warren and Tammy Duckworth, who are demanding clarification regarding the nature of Musk's access to potentially classified information. Tensions surrounding immigration policy were also palpable today as Trump defended his administration's deportation strategies, claiming that individuals sent back to El Salvador underwent a rigorous vetting process. Critics, however, have challenged this narrative, citing distress from families of deported Venezuelans who assert their loved ones have been wrongfully targeted. In a broader context, the political ramifications of these policy shifts are becoming increasingly evident. The administration's actions have provoked backlash from various sectors, including educators and civil rights advocates, who argue that the dismantling of the education department could undermine educational access and equity. As these developments unfold, the implications for federal governance and public policy will likely continue to be significant. With the 2024 elections on the horizon, how the Trump administration navigates these challenges will be closely watched, especially as it seeks to solidify its agenda amidst growing opposition both from within Congress and the public at large. The future landscape of U.S. education policy and federal agency operations remains uncertain, and the administration's next moves will be critical in framing the ongoing political narrative. In a landscape where public health and political activism intersect, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. continues to make headlines, particularly as he navigates his role as the Secretary of Health and Human Services (HHS) in the Biden administration. Recently, his approach to food safety and public health has ignited discussions across various sectors, including the food industry and scientific communities. As the nation grapples with issues surrounding food additives and vaccine safety, Kennedy finds himself at the center of a polarized debate. On March 10, 2025, Kennedy is set to meet with leaders from major food corporations including General Mills and PepsiCo, along with representatives from the Consumer Brands Association. This meeting, confirmed by sources close to the discussions, is expected to address the regulatory framework governing food additives in the U.S., a subject that has been a focal point of Kennedy's advocacy since the launch of his presidential campaign. The stark difference between U.S. and European Union regulations is notable, with over 3,000 food additives permitted in the U.S. compared to just 300 in Europe, raising questions about safety standards and consumer health. Kennedy's agenda aligns with the broader goals of the Make America Healthy Again movement, which advocates for stricter regulations on food additives and the banning of certain cooking oils linked to health risks such as colon cancer. Synthetic dyes often substitute for real nutritious ingredients such as fruits and vegetables, highlights a statement from the Center for Science and the Public Interest underscoring the health implications of food processing practices. This initiative reflects a growing concern among health advocates about the impact of food industry practices on public health. The timing of these discussions is critical, especially following recent regulatory actions by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which announced a ban on Red 3, a synthetic dye linked to potential cancer risks. This move signals a shift towards more stringent oversight, and Kennedy's meeting with industry leaders could pave the way for significant changes in how food safety is managed. However, Kennedy's tenure has not been without controversy. His outspoken views on vaccines have drawn sharp criticism from figures like Bill Nye, who recently rebuked Kennedy's stance on the importance of vaccines in public health. Nye's comments reflect a broader scientific consensus regarding the safety and efficacy of vaccinations, contrasting sharply with Kennedy's views that have often been labeled as conspiratorial. This divide highlights the challenges Kennedy faces as he attempts to balance advocacy with the scientific community's established norms. As Kennedy continues to navigate his dual role as a public health official and a political figure, the implications of his actions will be closely scrutinized. The outcomes of his discussions with food industry leaders could significantly influence regulatory practices and public health policy in the U.S. Future developments in this arena will not only affect food safety standards but also shape the discourse surrounding public health and vaccination in an increasingly polarized environment. With health advocacy at the forefront of his agenda, Kennedy's next steps could either bolster or challenge the prevailing narratives surrounding health and nutrition in America. In a striking declaration underscoring the evolving landscape of political discourse and corporate accountability, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has labeled recent attacks on Tesla properties as domestic terrorism. This statement echoes sentiments expressed by President Donald Trump, who has voiced strong support for Tesla's CEO Elon Musk, particularly in response to a series of violent incidents targeting the electric vehicle manufacturer. Bondi's comments came in a statement released on Tuesday where she condemned the swarm of violent attacks against Tesla and affirmed that the Department of Justice (DOJ) is pursuing legal action against several individuals involved in these incidents. The swarm of violent attacks on Tesla property is nothing short of domestic terrorism, Bondi asserted, emphasizing that the DOJ has charged multiple perpetrators with serious offenses that carry mandatory minimum sentences of 5 years. The recent spate of vandalism appears to be linked to protests against Musk's influence in federal workforce reductions since Trump assumed office. These protests, dubbed Tesla Takedown, aim to express discontent with the job cuts and the broader implications of Musk's political activities. Trump, standing alongside Musk at the White House, has threatened to classify those who harm Tesla's interests as domestic terrorists, stating, "I'll do it. I'm going to stop them, because they're harming a great American company." The fervor surrounding these attacks is reflected in the actions of lawmakers as well. House DOJ Subcommittee Chairwoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and her colleagues have reached out to Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, calling for investigations into what they describe as organized attacks against Musk, his company, and the broader DOJ initiative. Despite these political maneuvers, Tesla's stock has suffered significantly, plummeting nearly 50% since December. Analysts at J.P. Morgan attribute this decline to a combination of a struggling electric vehicle market, reduced global sales, and branding challenges linked to Musk's political affiliations. As of mid-March 2025, Tesla shares were trading around $233, reflecting a staggering decline of approximately $127 in just a month. The impact of the backlash against Musk is palpable, with Tesla dealerships across the U.S. experiencing vandalism and arson. In Fort Lauderdale, for instance, 34 new Cybertrucks were damaged and defaced with graffiti expressing anti-Musk sentiments. Similar incidents have occurred in Loveland, Colorado, where a Tesla dealership was vandalized, and in Las Vegas, where a targeted attack involved the use of Molotov cocktails and gunfire to destroy vehicles. FBI officials have indicated that the Joint Terrorism Task Force is now involved in the investigation of these incidents, although they caution that it is too early to definitively classify them as acts of terrorism. FBI Special Agent in Charge Spencer Evans remarked, "Violent acts like this are unacceptable, regardless of where they occur. It's a federal crime. We will come after you. We will find you and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law." Bondi's remarks and the subsequent federal response highlight a broader narrative of political and corporate alliance in the Trump administration, particularly in its defense of Musk and Tesla. The Attorney General's assertion that these attacks reflect a coordinated effort by individuals operating behind the scenes adds a layer of complexity to the ongoing discourse about activism, corporate influence, and public safety. As investigations unfold and the consequences of these attacks are determined, the interplay between corporate interests, political allegiances, and public sentiment will likely continue to shape the narrative surrounding Tesla and its controversial CEO. The coming weeks will be critical in assessing how these dynamics evolve and their potential impact on the electric vehicle industry and beyond. In a stark warning for the American economy, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has characterized the nation as being hooked on excessive government spending, signaling the onset of what he calls a detox period. During a recent appearance on CNBC's Squawk Box, Bessent emphasized the potential economic fallout from ongoing efforts to rein in government expenditures, a shift that may disrupt the fragile economic optimism that had characterized the early months of President Donald Trump's second term. Bessent's remarks emerge in a climate where the administration had previously promised extraordinary economic benefits, suggesting a significant departure from those expectations. The secretary articulated a troubling trend, stating, "The market and the economy have become addicted to excessive government spending, and there's going to be a detox period." This candid assessment raises concerns among investors and economists alike about the sustainability of America's fiscal policies. Recent data underscores the urgency of Bessent's warnings. In February alone, the U.S. government recorded a staggering budget deficit of $307 billion, 2.5 times larger than January's shortfall and a 3.7% increase from February 2024. Such figures reflect a continued reliance on expansive fiscal measures despite initiatives aimed at curbing spending and enhancing efficiency within government operations. For instance, a recent bill signed by Trump allocated $1.7 trillion to federal agencies with minimal cuts to non-defense spending and a slight increase in defense expenditures, indicating that the government remains committed to high levels of spending. Economic indicators suggest that the anticipated detox may already be taking its toll. The S&P 500 has seen a loss of approximately $5 trillion in market value over the last 3 weeks, while consumer sentiment as measured by the University of Michigan's index is projected to plummet by over 10.5% from February to March. This decline signals a waning confidence among consumers, further complicating the economic landscape. In light of these challenges, Bessent advised investors to consider strategies to shock-proof their portfolios against the impending economic turbulence. He highlighted 3 key approaches: investing in gold, exploring inflation-linked Treasury securities, and focusing on defensive stocks. Gold, traditionally seen as a safe haven during periods of economic uncertainty, has appreciated significantly, trading at over $3,000 an ounce, a 16% increase over 6 months. Meanwhile, Treasury inflation-protected securities tips offer a safeguard against inflation, which consumers expect to rise to 4.9% in the coming year, the highest in over 3 decades. Defensive stocks such as pharmaceutical companies and waste management services have also demonstrated resilience amid market volatility. For instance, Eli Lilly and Company and Waste Management have both outperformed the S&P 500, highlighting the potential for these sectors to provide stability during economic downturns. As Bessent navigates the complexities of fiscal policy, he faces the daunting task of balancing the nation's debt while addressing the growing deficit. The Treasury's strategy of favoring short-term debt issuance, a practice initiated by former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, has come under scrutiny as the economic landscape shifts. Analysts caution that the government's reluctance to issue more long-term debt could lead to higher borrowing costs in the future, especially if inflation continues to rise and investor confidence wanes. Looking ahead, the Treasury will soon be compelled to address the impending debt ceiling, which could precipitate significant new debt issuance. The decisions made in the coming months will be critical in determining the trajectory of the U.S. economy. As the nation grapples with these fiscal challenges, the future remains uncertain, with the potential for both recovery and further turmoil hanging in the balance. The unfolding detox period may serve as a crucial test for policymakers and investors alike as they seek to chart a course through turbulent waters. In a striking display of detachment from the realities faced by many Americans, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick recently downplayed the significance of missing Social Security checks, suggesting that complaints about such issues are primarily the domain of fraudsters. His remarks, made during an appearance on the All In podcast, have sparked outrage and concern among advocacy groups and citizens alike as they coincide with significant changes within the Social Security Administration (SSA) under the Trump administration. Lutnick, who is closely associated with former President Donald Trump and has amassed considerable wealth, commented, "Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law is 94. She wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't." He further stated that the easiest way to find a fraudster is to stop payments and listen, implying that those who raise concerns about missing benefits are merely seeking to exploit the system. Such statements have drawn sharp criticism, particularly from organizations dedicated to protecting the rights and welfare of older Americans. These comments come at a time of heightened anxiety regarding the future of Social Security. As the SSA has begun implementing controversial changes aimed at streamlining operations. The so-called Department of Government Efficiency DOGE led by Elon Musk has pushed to close numerous Social Security offices and limit phone services, raising alarms about the accessibility of essential services for the elderly and disabled. The SSA has announced that it will no longer allow individuals to verify their identities over the phone, forcing many to travel to physical offices, a move the AARP is condemned as detrimental to seniors who may face significant hardships as a result. The Social Security Administration's move to force people to visit offices in person for services that they have sought by phone will result in more headaches and longer wait times. The AARP warned in a statement. They highlighted the particular challenges faced by rural Americans who may need to take time off work and travel long distances just to complete routine paperwork. The potential for these changes to lead to real economic hardship for older Americans cannot be overstated, yet Lutnick's perspective seems to reflect a significant disconnect from the experiences of those he serves. As Lutnick's comments echoed through media channels, they were met with legal scrutiny as well. The federal judiciary has intervened to block some of the Trump administration's attempts to grant DOGE access to sensitive private data from millions of Americans. In a dramatic response to legal challenges, Lee Dudek, the acting administrator of the SSA, threatened to shut down Social Security entirely, declaring, "Really? I want to turn it off and let the courts figure out how they want to run a federal agency." Such drastic rhetoric raises questions about the administration's commitment to upholding one of the most critical social safety nets in American history. Meanwhile, Lutnick has made headlines for encouraging the public to invest in Tesla amidst ongoing concerns about the company's stock performance following Musk's controversial decisions to fire federal employees and dismantle key government services. This intertwining of public office and private financial gain has prompted calls for investigations, with the Campaign Legal Center characterizing Lutnick's remarks as a potential violation of federal law. As the situation unfolds, the implications of Lutnick's comments and the administration's policies extend beyond mere financial concerns. They underscore a growing crisis in the way crucial social services are being managed and raise fundamental questions about the priorities of those in power. With mounting pressure from advocacy groups and an increasingly vocal public, the future of Social Security and its beneficiaries hangs in a delicate balance, leaving many to wonder what changes lie ahead in the coming months.